Welcome to another episode of the Brand Builder Show, the podcast that's designed to help Amazon sellers and future Amazon sellers become brand builders. See, there's a lot of opportunity in the e-commerce space right now, but only if you go in with the right mindset. And that's exactly what my two guests today have done. They've gone into this looking to build a real brand that becomes an asset of value over the next 3 to 4 years. Alex and Tom, my guests today, have grown their brand from zero to over $250,000 of sales in a short period of time and are looking to scale up fast. They brought on investment. They work together as business partners, both things that aren't often talked about. And it's an insightful conversation as we look at those aspects, the dynamics that they have, that they are both traveling around the world. Tom's getting married. Alex is going to Thailand. Loads of stuff going on. It makes for a really interesting conversation. So make sure you stick around to the end because it is going to really help you on your journey as you look to build a brand. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Awesome. Well, welcome to another episode of the Brand Builder Show. I'm here today with Tom and Alex. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. I'm excited to dive into to your journey and been excited to see the journey unfold so far. So we're going to unpack that a little bit today and talk about what the future holds and exciting stuff. To get us kicked off, can you just sort of share us a little bit about your background? How did you guys kind of get into the Amazon space? What were you doing before that? When did you discover Amazon? All that juicy info. Give us a bit of background.
Yeah, so, I mean, first of all, thanks for having us on, Ben, and giving us the time today. But yeah, so Tom and I both live in Barcelona at the moment. We, when did we meet? Like 4 or 5 years ago, I think. So we kind of been friends for a few years, and I originally started on Amazon probably just over 2 years ago. I started selling in Spain because I was based in Spain and started selling there. And Tom and I, whenever we met up and whatever, we would always talk about business, and Tom's always been like a bit of an entrepreneur type thing. So it was about 18 months ago that I was kind of looking to really take the Amazon thing to the next level. And Tom and I kept chatting. And then, to be honest, I kind of had this mindset of like, it was my baby and I'd put all this work into it. And I was very sort of like cautious about maybe bringing someone else in. But in the end, it's obviously turned out really well. So yeah, Tom and I started working on it together. And then I guess the rest is history. But yeah, we just started out as friends, and then now we're friends and business partners. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'd love to dig into a little bit more later on, because I've got a business partner and I think there's great strengths to that. But obviously, some people might, question how that plays into what you do sort of day to day. So I'd love to talk a bit about that as time goes on. But so you guys have quite open about your journey, though, right? You're talking about the last 18 months, 2 years you've been growing this. You're kind of like documenting it on your YouTube channel, right? The Honest Entrepreneurs, as you call it.
Not the easiest name to spell that. When Alex told me the name, that was his idea, to be fair. And I was like, I don't know if I could spell entrepreneur, man. That's a hard search every time. So we're going to have to be good at SEO.
Yeah. No, that's good though. It does what it says on the tin. There's a lot of fluff out there. So, you guys are putting out, real content about your journey. So can you talk to us about that journey of selling on Amazon last 18 months? How's that gone? How's it grown?
It's been very interesting, to be honest. I mean, to your earlier point, like pre Amazon, my background was sales, like pretty heavy sales. So actually, a lot of early 20s was a lot of bachelor parties. So like stag and hen do's was my area, and then a bit more into kind of corporate events. But with the entrepreneurial side, we owned part of kind of launched an inflatable games business in Spain. So when Alex and I would meet up, it was kind of discussing that business versus what he was doing on Amazon at the time. And it just sounded really appealing to not deal with kind of drunk people every weekend that have got problems, that are calling you up at all sorts of hours. So dove into Amazon. But the reason being, really, we discussed it around the winter time. And I kind of, like Alex said, he was keeping it kind of secret. And he told me up front, he's like, look, I don't want a partner. What he wanted was some money, not a partner. And I was like, look, I want to get in there. And then, when COVID hit, to be honest, it was kind of a bit of a COVID baby. So we just went, my work completely stopped, to be honest. So I just went all in every day, like 9 to 5, watching videos, learning about Amazon. Did the Helium, just kind of learning Helium 10, did the Freedom Ticket course, did like all that good stuff. I hit it really hard, and then we just we moved fairly quickly. We did a fair bit of product research because at the time, Alex did have a brand already. I think I mean, this will be on some of our previous videos, but he had an existing brand in Spain, and the idea was let's scale this across Europe. So it was a good product with good reviews. So we went straight in with that and placed the order. But at the same time, we also, that was for the UK. We also wanted to launch in America. So we did completely separate product research. I had a list of 20 or 30 products, and then like every couple of days we'd go through the list and do the pros and cons of each. And in the end, I think it was in the May, we found a product which somehow only one other person on Amazon sold in the whole world by the look of things. So it was a bit of a wild find, that one. So went with that, and then kind of grown it since there. And I'll let Alex take over from where we got to with the first two brands.
Yeah, so as Tom mentioned, I already had this existing brand in Spain, and it was going quite well, but it wasn't. Like the ROI was quite small and the margin was quite small, and I always kind of think of it as like that's where I kind of cut my teeth in the beginning. And like when Tom came on board, I think the advantage that we had when we paired up was like Tom was just like a sponge. Like he went from like 0 to, not to give him a big head now, but like he went from 0 to like 100 so fast, because obviously we had the time because of COVID, but because I already had that knowledge existing, like he didn't have to go through all of that. He was just bombarding me with questions every single day. And in the very beginning, it was like overwhelming a little bit, but then all of a sudden he just went oof like that. And what it added to like the advantages that we then had, because there were two of us, I was like, why did I not just do this like, before? Like I felt like I'd made a mistake. But so I had the brand in Spain, and I kind of sold out of all my stock in Spain with the plan of moving it over to the UK. And we did that, and the first product that we launched in the UK went really well. So we flew to like the top of the category. We were doing like 25, 30 units a day. And we were super happy. Like, I think we did like maybe 10, 12K pounds in the first sort of month. Like, and then all of a sudden we just got hit with like just a run of bad luck. Like we stocked out on one variation, and then we got banned by Amazon. We have a suspicion that it was kind of maybe one of the competitors, but like long story short, our best selling ASIN was offline for just under like 2 months, I think. Tom, was it?
At that time, our account was basically we couldn't get in. We had numerous other issues, but effectively we couldn't. What we done is we launched. It went amazingly well. We ordered a lot of stock for Q4. Like we went all in. Like we were like super happy with the reviews were good. The product was good. There were 2 variations of it as well. Placed a huge order. Then we got banned, so we couldn't even create a shipping plan. So all this stock was stuck in China. In the end, we had to bring it over to the UK and store it somewhere. But we then, this was like every day on the phone to seller support. Because Alex was still working full time at this point as well, so he was doing it around his full time job. Yeah. I was doing it as my full time job, but all I was doing was basically trying to get through to Amazon every day. So I think overall, from when our first account creation, the day we made our account, we also got banned for a month, which is an internal error with Amazon. But we had 110 days of ban within our first kind of 4 or 5 months. So it taught us a lot about kind of perseverance and how to get through to seller support and how to escalate cases and all these things. But in the end, when you get, I don't know if you've been banned before, but they give you a reason that you've been banned, and it's kind of vague and you're meant to work it out. And then you go down these kind of forums that are just like a black hole of negativity and the Facebook groups and then you kind of get approached by these services that quote you $500 an hour to write you a kind of appeal letter. So our reason for the ban got changed 3 times. So it kept getting updated. So we never knew. And everyone tells you, like, fall on your sword. You definitely must have done something wrong. And in the end, we were like, you're wrong. That we called Amazon out, said they were wrong, and that's what got it resolved. But they never told us the reason, and it was just a bit of a mystery. But by the time we got back online again, our rankings just tanked like ridiculously hard. So even though we had a lot of stock, we couldn't then, because we basically blew our budget on the big order, and we hit the PPC very hard because it's quite a competitive niche. So by the time we got back in stock, we couldn't really afford to re-rank, to be honest, because you had to go so heavy on PPC. So moving forward, that kind of jumping ahead now, we actually, in the end, we've killed that brand as of just about now, which is a real shame because it's 4.5 stars. We've got hundreds of reviews, but we just couldn't get the rank back. So maybe we might revive it, but in the same time, the brand we launched in America, that one product we started with, it just went really well from day one. It's also super lucky. It's a product that can get produced from order to production is about 4 days.
What?
So 4 or 5 days, we just got, it's pretty wild. So we can, before shipping went ridiculous, I think our record from order to at Amazon was like 4.5 weeks, like turnaround, which was, so we were like thinking this is the one we're going to go for this product, grow this brand out. Obviously shipping's got a lot more difficult since then, but we've kind of grown out from that product. We've launched a range around that niche now. And we kind of just we're laser focused on one brand rather than trying to build two to begin with. And then we might revive the first brand if we can, basically.
Yeah, it sounds good. Talk to me a bit about the UK US thing, right? Because there's a lot of people that live in the UK and think selling in the UK is the best thing to do, and a lot of UK YouTube content is sell on Amazon UK, and there's definitely some benefits to that, right? But you guys have gone with the US and seen some good success there. What's been your reasoning for going to US? What's been your experiences with it? How would you compare?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this was I made an. I don't want to say like an even bigger error because I don't want to imply that I think it's an error to sell in the UK. But like I mentioned, I originally started selling in Spain, and that was just simply because like a lack of understanding. Really, I thought because I was living in Spain, it made the most sense, and it was quite low competition, whatever it was. But then we eventually moved over to the UK. But I think it was the reason being was we just when Tom came in with like fresh eyes, I think I sort of had this like. This idea that like, well, everybody that I knew that was from the UK was selling in the UK. So I just kind of like, I didn't really, and I think it was just Tom saying, why don't we look at the US market? And I think my response was, but it's really competitive and it's difficult to set up an account. And this was one of the benefits of bringing Tom in and having like a fresh sort of like point of view on it was, he was like, well, I'll just take a look. And I think he was just like, no, it's easy to set up the account. So I had this sort of, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like a preconception.
Epiphany?
And that as well, I had this like preconceived idea that wasn't really backed up by any sound logic, that it was very difficult to start selling in the US. So basically, once Tom came in and he was like, no, let's just, so it was kind of due to him and just sort of seeing it from a fresh point of view. So we basically, we set up the account, and I remember saying to Tom, I was like, I actually thought it was way more difficult than that. And we got the account set up really easily. We got everything that we needed to start selling there. And then the more that we looked at the US market, we realized that it's actually, I would say it's less competitive, because what you find is there's niches in the US that just don't exist in the UK. There's no demand for them.
Yeah.
So our niche there's not too much demand for our niche in the UK. But what it means that in the US, like Tom said, there was only one person selling this product. So, and their listing was terrible. So what we found the difference between the UK and the US is that in the US, you can find these like super obscure niches that don't exist in any of the other markets because there's just nowhere near as much demand. But then you go into them and the actual level of the competition is lower because the sellers are just not as good at Amazon. You often find people are, there's someone in our niche that in the height of the season for the niche, they're doing $60,000-$70,000 with a listing with one photo. And I'm not saying you can't find that in the UK, but that was one of the main differences, is that we were finding a lot more products we found, because in the UK it was all the same stuff coming up, and it's almost like, do you want like a small slice of like this big, the pie is smaller basically in the UK because the market's just a lot smaller. Once we kind of, and I think that's one of the things that I see a lot with people from the UK, and is they kind of think, well, I'm in the UK, it's just easier to, and it is, and there are the advantages, like you said, you've got the European markets and stuff like that, and some of the niches are way more competitive in the US, but overall, we found it easier to find the products, and once we created the accounts, it was pretty simple.
Yeah. I think it's
I mean, to be fair, to add to that as well. Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
no, you go.
I was going to say that there are like the elite Amazon sellers in the States are definitely better than the UK, like the kind of high end niches. But which obviously then just because we're moving in those waters, like we still check them out. But then what we then do, we find that it makes us make our listings such good quality that when we do launch in the UK, so we have launched the second brand, and we've got one product now in the UK, but our listings is so much better than most people's because our barometer is higher against, because we're not comparing ourselves to like the other guys in our niche because there's not great at Amazon. But if we then look at the elite on Amazon, you kind of just moving in kind of up in your performance levels, which is better overall for the business.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge point, because it forces you to up your game, which is such a key element of it. Your skills are such a massive part of growth in the business. But also, I think that Alex, you mentioned about Europe. You can get easier into Europe, but now with Brexit, that's way less of a reason to start in the UK because it's easier to launch in the US than it is in Europe for a UK seller. For us with our toy brand that we started this year, we'll be launching in the US next year before we launch in Europe. Even though Europe feels like it's right next door, it's far easier and cheaper to launch in the US because of taxes and Brexit and all that rubbish. And so, it's amazing how much easier it is than people realise. Hey,
for sure, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, we've been kind of out of the Brexit loop a little bit, I guess, because we're based in Spain and also most of our business is in the US. But yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be the dream days. Used to be you could sell from the UK and you could launch in all European marketplaces, and Amazon would ship it from the UK. It would be slightly more per unit, but you didn't have to pay any VAT registration until you hit certain thresholds, and it was amazing. But obviously those days are gone, and so US is definitely a better option, and it's. It's no different, right? Because we run a business where you don't touch the stock. It goes straight from your supplier to the warehouse anyway. So what difference does it make if that warehouse is down the road or if it's in the US? So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And that's obviously quite applicable for you guys because you guys are traveling, right? You are from the UK, but you don't live in the UK. Talk to us a bit about that dynamic.
As you can probably see, we're both extremely tan gentlemen, so we had to move over to the Mediterranean. Now, I mean, we both, you meet a lot of people in, like, when we both traveled quite a lot before, like we kind of Australia and Southeast Asia, kind of all the classics, and like South America, those kind of places. And you meet a lot of kind of like-minded people. But living in Barcelona is quite a transient city. Okay. So I think the reason Alex and I became such good friends is actually quite, well, in our mid-20s, it was quite rare to meet people that were actually entrepreneurial. You meet a lot of party goers, a lot of party boys and party girls, which is good. It's a good place to be, and it's fun, but it's quite easy to get lost to the city of Barcelona because it's like a bit of a sweet shop, to be honest, and just kind of non-stop activities to do. So that's why we became good friends, being kind of entrepreneurial and then traveling around and the lifestyle we wanted to live. We kind of realized a couple of years ago, like the 9 to 5 thing people do it's all over the world, people do it, but it doesn't really exist in Spain. So we're already a bit offset from that. So say in Spain, you work from, it sounds silly, but like say you work 10 till 6, but the fact that you can work from 10 means you don't stay in on a weeknight because you need to get up early for work. You already live in your own, kind of by your own means a bit more, and you're a bit more relaxed. So you manage your time a bit better, I think.
Yeah.
So we knew our work-life balance. We wanted it to be a certain way. So then we both had kind of fairly flexible careers beforehand in terms of like managing our own time. But the next logical step was working for ourselves. So now when we're moving around still, so at the minute, actually, I'm over in the UK, but we still we schedule our weekly meetings, and we stick to when they're supposed to be. Yeah. We use Notion to kind of plan our weeks out. Assign tasks to each other. We definitely have to be pretty disciplined with that. Yeah. And Alex is actually about to jet off to Asia. I ruined his surprise, sorry. But so we're going to be dealing with a time difference then as well. But to us, it seems like as long as you keep the discipline, then it doesn't really matter to us.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this business, right? You can run it from wherever you are, but it must provide challenges for you guys. What are the challenges? Because there'll be people that are listening to this that think, I'd love to travel and run this business. I'm still trying to convince my missus to go to the Alps for a season of skiing, but we've got two kids that apparently need to be looked after or something. So, but it's possible, right? You can run this business from wherever, but it provides challenges. What do you have to kind of deal with that's different if you were just staying in one place?
I think the biggest challenge that we've faced is the structure. Is you've got to be like super disciplined. When we are working in the same place, we often meet up and we try and get into a routine. Like we go to the gym together, and like we're that into Amazon, we talk about it 24/7. But you can find that discipline slipping away a little bit. So especially when you're working remotely, you have to you have to just put that structure in place. So, we have the weekly meetings at the same time every week. Like Tom said, we use Notion to organize everything. We try and sort of every month or so, we try and like refocus kind of like what our high level sort of goals are, because it's very easy with Amazon, especially with all of the logistics and the PPC and all of that sort of like in the weeds type work. It's easy to lose sight of like the bigger picture. Tom and I's goal is to have like a 7 or 8 figure exit in the next 4 years, and in order for us to get there, we need to always make sure that we're doing all of the in the weeds work, but we're also sort of like every couple of weeks we come back and we assess the bigger picture. Like, are we heading in the right direction? Is what we're working on the key things that are going to drive growth? And one of the biggest things that we probably, I guess, in the last 12 months, we really, really tried to work on is the 80-20 rule, because we found that we were doing a lot of like busy work and kind of just getting bogged down a little bit sometimes in a lot of like smaller tasks. So if anyone's not familiar with the 80-20 rule, it's that 80% of your progress or your results or whatever come from sort of 20% of your actions. And now the way that we use that is we try and make sure when we sit down and we plan our time is we say like, right, what are the tasks that are going to get us from A to C or D, and once we started to think like that and we started to really sort of prioritize those top tasks, that was when we started to see a lot more progress. And I think that's even more important when you're working remotely and you're trying to travel about, is because it's easier. You don't have that 9 to 5 structure and routine. So you've got to be super disciplined to be able to try and, have that structure in your time and your work to try and hit the goals.
I think you also have to be, it's good to hold yourself accountable. Having the business partner, one of the main benefits, because we know a lot of Amazon kind of businesses is sole operators. So obviously a lot of pressure on one person, but you kind of read quite a lot about people wanting accountability partners, which obviously we just naturally have now from each other. So it's a massive bonus having that for the business partner.
Yeah, I was literally about to say the same thing. One of the biggest things for me that I've loved about having a business partner is exactly that accountability. Because I think before I probably drifted because there was days where I was finding things hard and, I was just like, checked out mentally, and it would just drift for a few days, a few weeks, whatever. But having that business partner, like, I need to get this done because I'm on the clock against them, and it's a healthy thing, right? Obviously it could get bad, I suppose, if you've kind of fell out about that. But, I've found it to be a really, really helpful thing. Have you guys found any challenging dynamics with that? For anybody that's thinking about starting a business with a business partner, any warnings you'd give them on that? Or?
I was just going to say.
Why do you think his name is Asia?
No, I mean, like one of the things, and I know obviously with the name of our sort of channel and everything is The Honest Entrepreneurs, and that kind of came from this idea of just transparency and being honest, and that's the way that Tom and I try to work. And the amount of time that we spend speaking and the amount of time that we work on the business, like, I think it's a testament to our working relationship of how well it's worked, because we do disagree on stuff. I'm not saying it's not a perfect relationship where it's all sunshine and roses, but I think the main thing is just being honest with each other, and we both know that we're in the end goal. We want the same thing, and we both respect each other, and we can disagree respectfully, and it's not easy because sometimes there's some big decisions that you might disagree on. And sometimes you think, well, if you were just on your own, you would have this clear decision. But then there's been multiple times where, you know, we've disagreed on something, and it's got not heated where we're arguing or like super bad or whatever, but we've maybe disagreed and then taken a step back, and we always come back and we just say, all right, let's present kind of both sides, and let's try and view this as objectively as we can. And sometimes, like, I'll admit there was things that I was super stubborn on, because I can be like a right stubborn mule sometimes. Tom disagreed on, and then in hindsight, Tom was right, or maybe vice versa a couple of times as well. But I don't know. But yeah, just having I think having that. And honestly, it's not easy to find a business partner like that. But I think that is one of the key things. If you can try and have that sort of like transparency and honest sort of feedback between you in your relationship, it really helps.
Yeah, it makes you.
I think there's definitely a point of like separating as well. Like, there's, because we were good friends beforehand. There are those moments, like Alex said, we naturally just speak about work all the time. So it doesn't really. But then again, it doesn't really feel like work a lot of the time because we enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, but being able to speak to each other, Alex is a pretty direct bloke. So like, if he thinks anything, he'll just say it. But I'm naturally probably a bit more optimistic. He's a bit more pessimistic. But that actually works really well because we kind of rein each other in from both ends and balance each other out.
Yeah.
But it's a dynamic which probably I've had business partners previously in the inflatable games business, and it worked well with them. There was 4 of us, and the first day we made the business, one of the guys who's a bit older than me, he was kind of saying that partnerships don't work. I don't really know why we're doing this, but we did it anyway. And 4 people's thoughts at once is hard. So to me, 2 is way easier, and maybe in the end it'll end up being 1 if we fall out, but we'll see. But for now, it's working pretty good, I think.
Hopefully,
just don't fall out until it's an 8-figure brand, and then you've got half each.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's good though. I think you're right. It just makes you analyse things a lot more. And I know there's decisions I would have just rushed into, but Claire's always been, very detailed and helps me sort of take a step back and analyse things a lot more. And I think it's a massive aspect. And I think so many of the people that say, "Oh no, don't do it. Partnerships never work." That's their limiting belief because they've had experiences with it. It doesn't mean it has to be true for anybody else.
Yeah. And
Matt, in your interview with Claire, she says she was told, I think verbatim, it was something like, the only shit that doesn't sail was a partnership. She was told
she did say that, yeah. Well, we're still going so far, so far so good.
But we actually, I'd say on that point, then we do have now a third partner. So now our business we're 45% each, and we have a 10% partner as well. So we have the controlling share, and we still run the business day to day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did actually sell 10% back in April or May this year.
Yeah, talking about that, you were saying you took on some investment to help grow the brand. Like, talk to us about your plans and what's the vision with that?
Yeah, in probably March it was going, the brand in the States. We had 1 or 2 products, and they just went crazy, which we didn't know is our, because we launched in the August. It was our first kind of spring, and it turns out spring was really good for our niche. So sales went a bit wild, and we had that kind of the good problem of we couldn't keep up with our growth. Yeah. So we were ordering a lot of stock, and obviously our cash is king obviously in this business. So we just needed access to cash. One thing with living in, so we're a British limited company, but living in Spain at the time, it's hard to get access to loans. So we couldn't get any of the kind of COVID bounce back loans because of our address being in Spain. Yeah. Couldn't also get a loan in Spain because our business was in England. So we were a bit kind of stuck in that area. So that led us to kind of look at a few other options. And one of those, was setting a bit of equity to raise the capital, and started doing some heavy networking. Like, we just went full, like 80-20, like we just went all out for kind of 3 weeks. Yeah. The day after we had this conversation, Alex met a guy at a jiu-jitsu class who just sold an Amazon business for 7 figures. Wow. And he was interested in investing. So we had a meeting with him 2 days later. Like, it was pretty wild how that all aligned. It was like a kind of law of attraction thing. Yeah. So in the end, we spoke to a couple of people who were super interested, and we ended up selling 10% to a guy who's based in London, who's a super smart guy. He knows a bit about e-com, but he's involved in kind of the tech world, which is Alex's background, is a bit kind of tech related. Yeah. He's in the SEO world in particular, which is something we're we're pretty keen on if we're going to expand our brand off Amazon eventually.
Yeah.
We think there's a pretty big opportunity
sure.
on the SEO side of things. It's not too competitive. So the idea is, was to raise that cash. It was to solidify our position with our current products that we had, which we've done. And to be honest, to be completely honest, like kind of the way that we did by our channel was we had a real clear route at this point to pretty huge money. It felt like the product list that we had that we just needed capital to launch was really clear. So we found them all. We found a great supplier. It was all kind of ready, and all we needed at that point was the cash.
Yeah.
But a lot of our products are quite large, so we had a number of oversized products. Which, as an example, I'll tell you one example. We had one that we launched in May, which is about $6 to produce, $5-6 to produce. When we got the quote initially, it was going to be $11 shipping per unit, which I know it sounds like a lot still, but the numbers worked out because we could sell it. It's quite a high ticket item.
Yeah.
Now, so as an example, now the shipping on that product is $22 a unit, and so that's just killed that product completely. The ROI is just screwed. So quite a few of the products we had lined up were oversized, but we were really keen on them because generally with oversized, competition's a lot lower as well.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to touch that, and also with the high ticket item, again, people generally don't like to test the waters there. I think everyone stays in that $20 to $40 range. So we were going kind of a bit above that. So that did put a bit of spanner in the works, and when the shipping went crazy. So now where we're at the minute is we're kind of pivoting, which we find every 2 or 3 months, it feels like you kind of reassess everything. Sure. We try and reassess things like bi-weekly and monthly still, but there's usually a new challenge. And this year it's definitely been the shipping's been ridiculous. So we had to identify new products. We've just launched 4 products this month.
Oh wow!
Kind of in time for Q4. So we're still confident with those, but it's made us kind of put our socks up and kind of reassess. And now, we're speaking to that partner, the 10% shareholder. It's good to kind of bounce ideas off him because he's got a pretty objective opinion on Amazon, because he's not actually even though it's good to be involved in it and you need to know what you're doing, it's good to have his external opinion because it's not kind of convoluted at all.
Yeah, for sure. I think, that's the making of an entrepreneur as well, isn't it? That ability to pivot when challenges arise. I think there's a lot of people that will use this as an excuse to, bail, but that just provides opportunity for guys like us that are going to find solutions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So talk to us about the journey you've been on. Like, I know you're quite open in your YouTube channel in terms of like numbers and stuff like that. You guys with this brand are about, what is it, like $250,000 in sales, something like that?
Yeah, we're around on that. I think we did about 35k. Yeah, around 350 to 400k we're hoping for this year. So I think end of year one was about between 250 and 300.
Yeah. Nice.
With the UK, obviously we had that second. We had 2 brands at the start, obviously. So now we've killed 1 brand, so we're having to replace that that revenue. But
and then
we kind of went off the mark. We went straight into 6 figures, pretty much.
Yeah, nice. And then in terms of, like, you talked about a goal, sort of 4 years. You mentioned, Alex, 7 to 8 figure exit. That kind of time frame. Like, do you have it all mapped out? Like in terms of right, this year we're going to do this much, this year we're going to do that much, or you just here we know here's our end goal. Let's just keep launching products and see when we get there, kind of thing.
It's one thing I was literally to Matt, the other guy involved in the business. We were just sort of writing out an email to him to send over to him to sort of discuss some things. And this is one of the things that we keep coming back to, when I say we try and reassess this like high level goal sort of thing, because, we've got this ambitious goal of a high 7, potentially 8 figure exit. So we have that as kind of like the end goal, and then we work backwards from that, so what does that mean in terms of, monthly revenue? If you're doing, if you're doing 20% net, what does that sort of mean? So we want to be getting to the point where we're doing at least 500k a month purely through Amazon, and then ideally we want to try and build maybe an 50 to 100k off Amazon in our niche where we're sort of working. And because of my background's in SEO, and then Matt, who's the other shareholder, his background is SEO as well. So at some point we're going to sort of map out the off Amazon side and sort of have that contribute. But we don't really have it like Tom said. We we felt we had a really clear path because of the product list that we had, and then the kind of shipping crisis hit and all of that went up. So that's where we've kind of had to pivot. And now we're kind of at this point where we're still a little bit back and forth with the direction that we take with the brand. But what we do know, what we want to do is, I think nowadays there's more and more sort of, there's more discussion around what these aggregators and what these companies are looking for when they're buying brands, which I think is great because it gives you an insight into what they're, exactly what they're looking at. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tom Wang, for example. He's got quite a big YouTube channel, and he exited his, I think it's Sedara Skincare, and he did a video recently where he was talking about not really the mistakes that he made, but some of the downsides to his brand at the time that meant his actual multiple for exit was lower than it could have been. So what we're doing is we're looking at those sorts of things, and we're trying to build the business with that in mind. So our goal is to exit it. So, we want to build a varied product portfolio. We don't want, 90% of the revenue to be coming through just one brand. We're really building it with scalability in mind. So if somebody does come in, we have all the systems in place. We have, so basically we're going to be able to hopefully hand it over to whoever takes on the brand, and then they have this great opportunity to scale. So, we have sort of the high level goals. We have, an idea of where we want to go, and we have like a plan A and a plan B. But we kind of, at the minute, we're on this crossroads of exactly where do we go, mainly because of the shipping crisis.
Yeah, it's a challenge, isn't it? Because I know I want to have this real clear roadmap of exactly where I'm going, but Amazon and e-commerce doesn't always seem to play ball. So
unfortunately,
it's interesting. Yeah. But I think it's a great, thing you're doing, obviously, because I've always said to people that even if you don't see yourself selling a business, building a business that could be sold is always going to be a better business.
100, yeah,
and it's always going to be easier to manage. And
I mean, the biggest thing that for me personally, that I think when you mentioned about being an entrepreneur, the way that it affects your mindset, and one of the things that Tom and I talk about a lot is how our mindset throughout this has just changed. So if you'd have said to us 12 months ago that we would have had a partner in the business and we would have sold some equity and raised this money, or we'd be talking to you on the podcast or whatever, we would have been a bit like maybe surprised or whatever. But now we kind of think that we can kind of get whatever we want. Like if we plan it and we believe that we can do it. I know it's a bit cheesy, but we've got that mindset where we can sort of do it. And now I think what we've been discussing lately is most of the Amazon model is around buying something from Alibaba, putting your logo on it, and then just sending it to Amazon. But now what we're gaining the confidence in that we can do is actually we can actually build a big e-commerce brand where Amazon is just one of the sales channels. We've got the skills, we've got the knowledge of how to do branding, of how to develop products. So there's no reason why we can't develop our own custom products. And then that protects you against some of the issues that a lot of Amazon sellers face. And I think that's one of the differences when we first started out to where we are now, in terms of how we're approaching it. And I think going back to the sellability or the saleability, I don't know what the right term is, of a brand. If we have a portfolio of products that we've custom developed ourselves, that just makes it that bit more attractive to a potential buyer, because those products can't just be easily copied. They might have a patent, they might be, they're going to be trademarked and all the rest of it. So it just gives you that moat of security, and that helps you get that higher multiple if you want to sell.
I think as well, we've met through the reaching out to people, and when we were raising the equity, and obviously, like I mentioned earlier, the guy that Alex met who just sold a business for 7 figures, it's pretty amazing to meet these people, because that guy we're both early 30s. He was, I think, 31. But talking to him when I think it was a 3 or 4 year business and an exit, and you discuss kind of tactics with them, and we discussed what we were doing. We showed them our brand and our plans, and it feels great when they're like, yeah, you guys are on the right track here. It's like, keep going this way. Like you'll get there, because these guys and girls are they're very smart. We've met a few people now who've had 7-figure exits, and they all they work very hard. They're definitely very switched on and motivated, but they're not they're not like, there's nothing magic, but we've seen their brands, like they just executed the business really well. So it gave us so much more belief that we can do it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like you said, all of this learning journey that you're on, the experiences you've had will definitely help you do that and, you know, build something that's, you know, that's quite impressive. And I think, like Alex was saying, you know, the other aspects of what you can bolt on as well, I think it is well and truly the era of the brand builder, right? You know, as you're saying, Alex, it was, I think Marketplace Pulse in their last year review of the whole e-commerce space, they said there's like Amazon Seller 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. You know, 1.0, you know, 10 years ago was the reseller, this realization that you could sell products on Amazon made by other people. 2.0 was like, oh, I could run my own private label and it's, you know, a white box with a black and white logo on it and make loads of sales, and it was easy. Whereas 3.0 is truly the era of the brand builder, someone that's going to put some effort into building good products. And I think, you know, that's a good thing. Of course, it's a little bit harder because you can't just sell some crappy product from China on Amazon, but it causes you to build a better business. And you know, that's what you guys are doing, and it's exciting to watch.
One question to you, Bennett. Have you had to, I'm not sure where you source all of your products, but with the way shipping's gone, have you had to source products in any other countries and change up how you're doing your business?
We haven't done other countries yet. You know, certainly open to that, but obviously China's very hard to beat, right, for production levels and you know, pricing, and they're incredible what they do. So, but we definitely are looking at smaller, you know, price to volume, like size volume ratio. You know, the cheaper, like I know someone who owns a jewelry brand right now, and I am so jealous of him, you know, like ridiculous. The size to pricing ratios are just unbelievable. But most of our sort of best selling products are sort of shoebox size. And so, you know, we're looking at much smaller products, you know, to add to the portfolio. So it is that the brand is a little bit more insulated from shipping fluctuations. And I think any seller would be wise to look at other revenue streams. But, you know, we're not just looking at that. We're looking at other, you know, digital products. And that's the thing, I think, you know, is when you build a brand, you're not just selling products on Amazon, you're providing solutions for people. And so, you know, we think about what products we are selling at the moment, what people are we selling them to, and what other problems do they have within the niche, and how can we solve them in ways that don't cost an absolute crap ton to ship from China.
I say one tip, which has been great for us, because the niche that we're in is it did get a bit of a boost because of COVID. We did definitely ride a bit of a wave with that one, but like we just joined a load of like Facebook and Reddit communities, and you just have such a good view into their world and how they think, what problems they have. It's such a massive tool that I think most people know that, but like if you don't know that, definitely do it, because this is mega useful.
Yeah, that's a great thought. Getting in the mind of your customer is such a key, eh?
Yeah, it's crazy the insights that we've got from some of the groups, and even with our product research now, I think that's we always come down to like, what is the actual pain point that you're trying to solve, and then that makes things a little bit clearer.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's really good. And you guys are like I said, documenting all this on YouTube, right? And we'll obviously leave the links for that in the show notes. But what can people expect when they come and check out your channel? What are they going to find?
Honestly,
that kind of
entrepreneurship.
It's like the whole thing was kind of born out of, as we touched on a little bit before, a little bit of frustration with. It's very difficult to know who you can kind of really. I don't want to say trust, but you can trust sometimes, because, you know, there's a lot of information going out about, and obviously people are, you know, trying to sell courses and all that stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that, because there are people that are doing that, you know, that have got a lot of knowledge, and it's great to share. But we just really wanted to try and be as honest and transparent as possible, and actually document what we're doing. You know, to try and meet other like-minded people, like, you know, because of that we're speaking to you, and we feel like that Amazon, there's a big enough pie for everybody to build a business and learn from each other, and, you know, make some money, whether you just want to make a bit of money on the side, or you want to sort of completely change your life and have a new career. But we just wanted to. The whole point was just to be transparent about the results, and just be honest with it.
I think one thing we did out as well, which we, again, as you mentioned earlier, we kind of keep having these learnings every couple of months, and kind of growing as a business. And we we were like, for example, about a month and a half, 2 months ago, we were like, our revenue we were absolutely flying. Like our sales were going really well. We had a number of products online. In particular, the one that was the high ticket item. So like we had these crazy revenue numbers, and we were on track to. I mean, we did our biggest ever month, but we could have easily kept that going. It would have been kind of easily surpassed 50, 60K months. And, we can show that on the YouTube channel and say, look, we're doing 50K, we're doing 50K. But we just took a step back and we were like, this cash flow is not working at all.
Yeah.
Obviously, because the shipping went crazy as well. But to the oversized product, we were going to have to place a huge order for that. So we had all the work was done with like professional photography, lifestyle photos, video made, good reviews, selling really well. And we've pulled that product. We put a pin in it and we were ranking well everything, but that was quite a hard decision because we had so much sunk cost and sunk time into it.
Yeah.
But to take a step back and realize that's great, we can create a lot of revenue, but the ROI just wasn't good enough. Yeah. It was taking such a hit, and it was either tie up a load of our cash and hope and pray that the shipping comes down again, or is that money better utilized elsewhere? Because we've learned so much from making that product, and we've still we got it back to break even, which was obviously not amazing, but not the worst thing ever. It was just a bit of sunk time, but what we learned from it was key, and now we actually applied that to the rest of our business. So we intentionally slowed down all of our sales. We turned up our PPC and refined it a lot better. With Alex kind of runs our PPC. He runs a pretty tight ship, so our ACOS is always pretty low, and the TACOS is great, to be honest. But we slowed it down. We've increased the ROI, and now we're all about the ROI now. So no, we won't launch anything unless it's got a good buffer, because it's very easy to kind of look at, say, the Helium 10 profitability calculator and see 100% ROI. You're, oh, great, doubling the money, but you just don't end up with that. Yeah. There's always things that come up. So really now we're looking at things that are 150% ROI plus, ideally obviously higher, that give us that buffer and allow us to actually keep the cash generating through the business and expand kind of organically, rather than kind of giving yourself that false belief that you're flying, when in reality it's just revenue. Doesn't really
just to piggyback on that is that was exactly kind of what was frustrating sometimes when we were watching some other channels and stuff, is listening to what they were saying about the profit, the revenue and all of that type of stuff. And we were in there doing it, and we were like, it's not as easy as these people are making it sound. And I think it's just not nice to think that people are sort of really exaggerating stuff just to sort of benefit financially. And I'm not by any means saying that everybody out there on YouTube and all that stuff is doing that, but there definitely some people are. So yeah, that was, and we covered this in the YouTube channel, how we did over $35,000 in sales on that one particular product, but we broke even on it, and we ended up like Tom said, putting a pin in it. So those are the sorts of things that we wanted to share on the channel, where perhaps we could just cover the high level stuff and say, well, this is the sales that we're doing, but nobody's really going to learn from that. And we think that, long term, it's just more beneficial for everybody to have a little bit of transparency.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's good. Well, recommend anybody listening, watching, definitely go check the channel out. Follow along these guys. It's going to be an exciting journey to watch over the next few years. Anything else to add before we sign off, chaps? Any last bits of advice or anything you'd want to say?
I would say network and reach out to people online as much as you can, because the world's a bit of a different place now to how it was a few years ago. And Alex just reached out to yourself, Ben, and just started chatting, and you end up doing something like this. And it's just, people are very accessible now, and generally people are good and they do want to share knowledge. So I definitely recommend just talking to as many people as you can. Maybe not in the Helium 10 Facebook group with 50,000 people and a lot of crap comments, but find those little communities of people that think the same as you, and it'll be mega beneficial.
Yeah. I think a little bit of that comes from, people are quite secretive about the products that they sell naturally, because there's copycats and stuff like that. But and I think it creates that mindset of just trying to do everything alone. But yeah, just to bar that up, definitely, find a partner, find people that you can chat to about Amazon, because it really helps.
Awesome, guys. Well, listen, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. I know you're busy and planning for your next set of travels all around the world. Not jealous much. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks a lot, Ben.
Ben, I'm getting married on Saturday, Ben. So my traveling life's coming to a close
Oh,
soon.
wow. Yeah. Well, congratulations in advance. Getting married.
I've honestly got to go and pick up the rings now. I'll be getting phone calls during the podcast. I'm busy.
Yeah,
I'm not doing it yet.
Exactly. But getting married can be a great tax benefit when you're a business owner. So
there you go.
It's a little bit of a secret for you.
That's why I'm doing it. That's actually in my speech.
There might be one benefit.
Yeah, that's it. Good stuff. All right, before we segue too much, thanks for coming on, boys. And check everyone that's listening, check these guys out on YouTube. And I'd love to get you back on again in 6 months or a year or something like that and track the progress and chat it through more. That'd be amazing.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Thanks for having us.
Great. Thanks, Ben.
All right, we'll see you soon. Oh, what an episode that was. Honestly, we hadn't put that long in the diary. We ran way over because we were just all enjoying the conversation so much. Fellow brand builders in a room talking shop together, and it was just an enjoyable conversation to have. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and if you did, make sure you do check out Tom and Alex's YouTube channel. Check out their content from the show notes or the description below if you're watching on YouTube. And listen, if you have enjoyed the episode so far, I would massively appreciate for us as a new podcast leaving a review. This is something that you are either going to or currently do ask your Amazon customers or your e-commerce customers to do for you. So I'm asking you to return the favor from me. Please do leave us a review on your favored podcast platform or subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. It really does help us to grow the podcast, get great guests on, and we really want to keep delivering value to you. And so you helping us do that is helping us hopefully help you. I've enjoyed this conversation massively, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode real soon.